Set of keys. We won't even. You'll like it. You'll like it. No, it's a nice truck. Glad to have y'all. So let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 30. 1 Samuel chapter number 30. Let's switch to this, Lincoln. 1 Samuel chapter 30, and it says, "And it came to pass when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the third day that the Amalekites had invaded the south, and Ziklag was smitten and burnt, and Ziklag and smitten Ziklag and burned it with fire, and had taken the women captives that were therein. They slew not any, neither great nor small, but carried them away and went on their way. So David and his men came to the city, and behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captive. Then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice and wept until they had no more power to weep. And David's two wives were taken captive, Ahinoam and Jezreeltis, and Abigail the wife of Nabal the Carmelite. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spake of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and for his daughters. But David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. And David said unto Abiathar the priest and Elimelech's son, I pray thee, bring hither the ephod. And Abiathar brought thither the ephod to David. And David inquired at the Lord, saying, Shall I pursue after this troop, and shall I overtake them? And he answered, Pursue, for thou shalt surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. And I just wanted to preach on this set of scriptures right here that, David, he had come back. At this point, they had come back from fighting the enemy. They had come back from fighting the Philistines, I'm sorry, I don't believe they were coming back from fighting the Philistines. I don't remember who they were coming back to fight. And anyway, the Philistines attacked Ziklag there, or the Amalekites attacked Ziklag there, and they took all their wives and their children. So when David and his mighty men showed back up, they had a burned city with nothing left. It was a bad situation. Could you imagine somebody showing up to Texarkana and burning up everything and taking all the women and children and just leaving the men? I mean, it would be a bad deal. I'm sure this was a little different. It's surely a lot smaller place, but that's about what it would be like. And the first thing you would do if you were a mighty man and not David is you would probably start blaming David, the one that's at fault, even though he wasn't really at fault. But that's what happened there. When they got there, they all cried out and they all wept because their wives and their children were gone. And then they started blaming the man in charge. And, they were about to kill David. But David, he went by himself, and, no doubt he was nervous. He was grieved. Pretty much any negative emotion you could feel, David felt it right then, because he probably wanted to be dead because he just knew his wife and children were dead. And the men wanted him dead, but he didn't want to die from them. I'm sure he just felt a wide range of emotions. But it said David encouraged himself in the Lord. And I guess it doesn't back it up in the Bible this way, but how I think David encouraged himself is, he went back to that lion that he had killed, and he went back to when he killed Goliath and cut his head off when nobody said he could do it, and he was going to die. And I'm sure he went back to killing the bear. I'm sure he went back to all those times that the Lord prevailed in his favor against incredible odds, and he won every single time. See, David was a man where he messed up a lot, but he was after God's heart. He failed time and time again, but every time he failed, he didn't say, well, whatever, I'm done. He went right back to the Lord. And there's something to be said about a man. You can criticize him for failing. I can't, because I failed. But there's something to be said about somebody that knows when they failed and they admit it and they repent from it. Because that's a just man right there. It says, a just man falleth 7 times, so shall he arise. You know, we strive to be perfect. The Bible tells us to be perfect. But I've already failed that test. I'm not perfect. So I strive to be perfect. But when I fail, I know I can go right back to Him. Now, there's a difference in doing it on purpose, knowing you can just go right back and it's going to be okay. There's a difference in that than it is to actually truly mess up and go, God, I messed up. I'm sorry. There's a difference in that. And I kind of got sidetracked there. But David went from, he felt like he was going to die and probably wanted to die, to where he was encouraged. And they had just got back from battle. No doubt they were tired and wore out. And he asked the Lord, he said, shall I go pursue, or shall I pursue? And it wasn't, shall I pursue and get my revenge? It wasn't, can I go maybe get back what's left of it? He said, can I recover all? And the Lord said, go, and you'll recover all. So he went, and let me pull that up right here. My pages are stuck together. It says, and when he had brought him down, behold, there were spread upon the earth, eating and drinking and dancing, because of all the great spoil that they had taken out of the land of the Philistines and out of Judah. And David smote them from the twilight even unto the evening of the next day, and there escaped not a man of them, save 400 young men which rode upon camels and fled. And David recovered all that the Amalekites had carried away. And David rescued his 2 wives, and there was nothing lacking to them, neither small nor great, nor sons nor daughters, neither spoil nor anything that they had taken from them. David recovered all. And David took all the flocks and the herds which they drave before those other cattle, and said, this is David's spoil. So that right there, that shows, or that accounts to the testimony of David right there, that when he said he's going to recover all, when the Lord said, go, you shall surely recover all, God didn't mean just the children and the women, which I'm sure David would have been satisfied with. But he recovered everything. And it said he wasn't missing nothing little nor small. There wasn't a jewel missing out of a crown that they had taken. There wasn't a necklace gone from a king. There was nothing gone. Anything that was taken from them, David recovered all. And that's just that's the Lord, or that was him encouraging himself in the Lord that allowed him to do that, because whenever it seemed like all hope was gone and he shouldn't have any reason to go fight, David found it within himself to go and fight and take on those that had taken everything from him. In Psalm 124, David wrote here, and this is whenever he was fighting the Philistines, is when he wrote this. He said, if it had not been the Lord who was on our side, now may Israel say, if it had not been the Lord who was on our side when men rose up against us, then they had swallowed us up quick. When their wrath was kindled against us, then the waters had overwhelmed us, the stream had gone out of our soul, and the proud waters had gone over our soul. Blessed be the Lord, who hath not given us as a prey to their teeth. Our soul is escaped as a bird out of the snare of the fowlers, and the snare is broken, and we are escaped. And our help is in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth. And right there, that's just David basically saying, when everything was against us and we couldn't do anything within ourselves, God came and he rescued us from the snare of the fowler. And not only did he just get you out of it, he broke that trap that the devil caught you in and what he snagged you in. And, even when it seems like we may not win and we may not get anything back and, the devil has got us, God always has a way of escape for his children. But we have to encourage ourselves in the Lord and be determined like David. Because what if David had just encouraged himself in the Lord and then went and tried to encourage his men? And then that was the end of it. Well, let's just be happy we're alive. That's not what he did. He encouraged himself in the Lord and had the determination to go get those promises that God had gave him. And a lot of times in our lives we get defeated and we're downtrodden and it feels like the devil has got us. But we need to remember to not get down in those times, even though life may happen, situations arise that cause us to get down and cause us to be discouraged. We have to remember to encourage ourselves in the Lord and remember all those times He's moved for us. Because I'm sure everyone in here can remember a time, at least one time, when it seemed like there was nothing to live for, or there was no reason to go on, or there was no way to get out of the situation you were in, that you somehow ended up squeaking out. And everyone maybe around you would say, well, it was luck, or, it was a bunch of coincidences that happened. But we all know that it was God, because He always makes a way of escape for His children. Look at the children of Israel when they were going through the desert, when they crossed the Red Sea. God provided for them. Even when they didn't listen to what He said, He provided for them and always made a way of escape for them. God will do that for His children if we're faithful to Him. But we have to remember that. We have to remember that He's faithful. Because if we forget that, then what are we even doing? There's no purpose of being here if we don't trust God's faithfulness. There's not. But we just have to remember to encourage ourselves in the Lord when we get down. And when the devil has taken something from us, don't accept it. Go take it back. Don't accept the loss. It's not like now when somebody steals something from you, you got to go file a police report and hope a detective calls you saying, we found your stolen property. No, this is spiritual warfare, and you've got all of heaven fighting for you. But you have to go take it. It says the kingdom of heaven take it, or the violent take it by force. We have to go after the devil. We can't just hope and pray that the devil will magically return it. He won't. When he takes something from you, he's got it until you're determined to go get it. Now, we should all live in a place to where we don't have to give the devil anything, where we don't give it up. But that's not always the case, and that doesn't help anybody. When somebody has something stolen by the devil, when the devil has your joy or your faith or your hope, and you say, well, you shouldn't be there, that doesn't help that person in that moment, right? You shouldn't be there, sure, but you are, so go get it back from him. Go figure out how to get it back from him. How do you do that? You turn back to God, you encourage yourself in the Lord, and you say, God, shall I pursue? Shall I go recover all? And you have to go take that from the devil, because he's not going to just willingly give it to you. Those Amalekites, even though David did that, he encouraged himself in the Lord, and he went and pursued. They didn't just give up. He fought them from the twilight all the way into the evening of the next day. It wasn't like he showed up and they said, it's yours, and walked off and fell on a sword. No, he fought all day long for that. But he got everything that the Lord said he was going to get because he was faithful to fight that fight. But we have to be faithful to fight that fight. It doesn't matter if the devil has taken your salvation, if he's taken your joy, if he's taken your health, whatever it is. The kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force. You have to be willing to go and fight the devil and just not fall over and just, and give up and wave the white flag. What's the worst thing that could happen? You lose? It's the same outcome if you just give up. Now, I believe that if you're faithful, I believe God is faithful to us, and He's, we're fighting a fight that's already been won. But we have to encourage ourselves in the Lord, because it's paramount in today's age that everything is doom and gloom. News stations, which that's how they sell. That's how they make all their money, is bad headlines, negative headlines, or headlines to make things look bad. Good news doesn't sell. People like a good news story. They like, to read good news, but it doesn't really sell because there's not a whole lot of action on it. But as soon as you say the sky has fallen, everybody's going to click on the news article and read it, or watch the news video of it, whatever it is. So the devil, he's constantly pumping bad news, bad news, bad news. And, a lot of times we worry about the bad news in our lives, and it never even comes to fruition. We worry about bad things that are going to happen that never even come to pass, just like Logan was talking about when Jesus was born. King Herod sent word to kill Jesus, but that never came to fruition because of the dream that he sent to the Magi. Well, that was God working behind the scenes that, we're worried about the behind the scenes stuff. God, are you taking care of that? God, do you see this coming up? Do you hear what they're saying? We're worried about how God is working in our lives and trying to give him our input. When you're building a house, you've got multiple people that are working for you, that are doing different things in your house. And they don't love it when you ask them, are you sure you're doing that right? Or do you need to do it this way? You're questioning their intelligence, and they kind of just shut up and they don't want to really do it. We're talking to the master architect of this whole universe. God, are you sure? Are you seeing what's coming on the horizon? I don't know, God. You need to be paying attention to that. We try to tell God how to plan our lives when really we just need to have our faith in him and be ready to push forward and fight for the kingdom of God. And when the devil takes things from us, and he's taken things from us, there's people that should be sitting on these pews that aren't. And I don't mean, the people that are gone to Florida or sick or whatever, but there's people that should be sitting here that aren't. And it's time for us, there's a time to weep and there's a time to cry, but there's also a time for war. And right now is a time to go to war with the devil, If you've got something in your life that has been taken, if it's your joy, if it's your salvation, whatever it is, go and pursue it and go and get that back from the devil. Because it's time to tell him he's not going to run over you anymore. He's not going to intimidate you. He's not going to push you in a hole and shut you up. It's time to go get that, and it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter how ridiculous to the world you seem. It's time to go get that from the devil. Could somebody come to the piano? I'm pretty much wrapped up here. But it's time that we learn to go and attack and not just raise our hands and say, y'all pray for me, I need help. And then you don't even go pray for yourself when you get home. And I'm not pointing that at any one person. I'm not at all. But I'm just saying I have that mentality, I need prayer. I need prayer. And then I get busy and I don't even go pray for myself when I need it. And then I expect prayer warriors to come through for me. It's time for me to take action for myself. Because that's the only way that we're going to win this war, is if we put feet to action for ourselves. If we could, let's just come, find us a place to pray, and just get that joy back, get that fight back.